feel the cool air? Do you feel the cool air?
Yes, I feel the cool air.
Okay, that's the back side of the storm. Feel how cool it is and the wind?
Yeah, it feels good.
You feel that? There he goes. Here goes the bird. Look at that right there. Over that way. Look at this right here. Look straight ahead that way. Look at that cloud, and look at the other cloud over that way. See how one's going one direction, the other's going the other? Okay, insert the disc this way. And it was good. This is relatively the area where Barksville was created. It's also known as Bartonville, and we're in the Lantana area, about to go into Bartonville, which is also AKA Barksville. All right, that's Bartonville. That's where I'm at right now. We are going to pull up to what says the town of Bartonville. In the screenplay and the story, it's called Barksville. There it is. There's the sign. You can see it. It's kind of hard because of the sunlight. But that right there says Town of Bartonville. And ideally there'd be a rock or something right there. There's some horses. And it would say Town of Barksville. Is what it would say. Little statue of horses. I like that. I like using the horses because Grace Lippin has a horse equestrian thing like this right here. There's some of that. We'll pass a big one right coming up here. There is Marty B's, where they play live music. And they have a Marty B's coffee. You get coffee there too. And here is the equestrian ranch, horse farm kind of thing where they have the horses. It's called Saddlebrook Estates. And there's horses right there. It's like a place where you can ride horses and things like that. It's a cool tree right here, which I think kind of fits the story for some reason. It looks like the fence broke right there. Pretty cool. Well, we made it back to the Speedway. There it is. NASCAR just had a big event, so it looks like they still have trailers right about there once we take a coffee break. Trailers right there. Well, firefighting fight is 817-737-7800. That's for moving. Trying to move. Now we're gonna head off over and pick up some Lane's chicken. almost looks like AstroTurf, but it's some kind of mesh that goes, I guess maybe where the concrete's going to go to keep the concrete in there. You can see the green on it. It's pretty cool looking. We are at half-staffed. Some call it half-mast. But we are at half-staff because of what happened in Yusvelda. It's very hard to describe what happened, but it's a weird place in Texas. It's about 85 miles from San Antonio. And it's pronounced like Yusvelda, but it happened at an elementary school. It was a high school student. He was about 18. He was a Latino male that went in and he killed, I heard anywhere between 14, 18, and I heard 22. So I don't know how many. They're still finding out the exact amount, but 2 teachers were killed. At first, I thought it was 1 teacher, but supposedly it was 2 teachers and 20-something students. Now, I've heard 14, I've heard 18, and I've heard 22 that were deceased. I've heard that the man was killed, so the suspect was supposedly killed. Very serious stuff. This just happened yesterday. Today's the 26th. So it was 1 day ago that it happened. And that's why we have half-mast right now. I got a phone call from New Jersey, and I told them I ate the Jersey Mike. What I meant to say was I ate the Jersey Mike. It was a number 5. This bumper is saying that my Visla is smarter than your honor student. You see? Real nice. They're flaming hot, so watch out. Yeah, I know. Get him. There he is. Yeah, disappeared. So I just found out some information about Uvalde, and it's going to be time. There's going to be a time when the Republicans and police officers, they are going to have to surrender. Probably their badges first, and then their guns. I know it sounds crazy, but the officer sees that as the same. The badge is the gun is the badge, because they're saying that that's right. Now Jesus tells us that we don't have swords, that we grow up, right? When you see someone with a gun, you want to tell them to grow up. Okay, stop being a child and put away childish things and put away your sword. Okay, so it says you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So you don't follow God's commands, then you're following the childish ways. So we would put away our sword, we'd put away our guns, and we would put them away. Because England is fine. They go around with billy clubs, and I don't even think they should have billy clubs. I think they should be probably about the same as a mall cop, where they have a little stun gun. We got to start. If we're going to stop these horrible things that are going on in elementary schools, just like at Uvalde, first we have to start with the police officer. We have to go up to them and say, grow up. Read the Bible. A real man loves Jesus. Put away your badge and put away your gun. Then we can move on to the public. Okay? Now, I'm a believer that every American citizen should have the right to own a gun. assault rifles, M60s, whatever it is that they want to own. But I feel that the representatives or police officers that are paid by the state have no right to own a gun. But they do have the right to own a stun gun, a non-lethal gun. We do have the right to have state SWAT or SWAT that's paid by SWAT, and they can have any type of gun they want. But it starts with the beat cop. We got to start somewhere. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for the police officer when he's told you'll have to come into the office, you'll have to remove your lethal sidearm, but you can continue on. Many officers, especially the killers, the murderer officers, which there are out there, we know that from George Floyd, they'll surrender the badge and they'll move on. Militia, they should have the right to have any type of gun. Okay? Any type of gun. M60, grenade launcher, whatever it may be, because we have the right to have a militia. But the state official or the beat cop can no longer have the gun. It has to start somewhere. That's going to lower mass shootings if you look at the statistics on there, the demographics after they turn in their sidearms. That's for the beat cop, okay? They can call SWAT on somebody if they need to, or they can carry their what's it called? It's like a stun gun, because there's too much violence. And when sharks start to eat, you know, when you throw the blood into the water, if you're seeing Jaws or whatever, sharks gather, right? Jaws is kind of a good example. Any shark documentary where you throw the blood in the water and the sharks gather, that's what's going on with these killings. We have to not just say, okay, mass shootings are bad, but we also have to say what happened to George Floyd was bad. We have to say what happened to that guy that ran from the cop the other day in Arlington and was gunned down in his back. And supposedly he had a gun, but I didn't see it, not in the footage. But he supposedly shot another officer, or maybe it was a misfire. I don't know. But regardless, we don't know all the facts. But we do know that there's violence in there, and it starts with the beat officer. Okay? My best friend, who wanted to be a police officer, probably a beat officer first, and then maybe go into SWAT, he died in the Sunni Triangle because of gun violence, because there's gun violence in war. So what we do is we stop treating our country like it's a police violence. Or, I'm sorry, a police action. Sorry, I was thinking of Vietnam. We start treating it as that we're agents of peace and that we don't need the lethal sidearm, but that we can react. Now, it sounds very strange, but you got to think about what's the representation here. What's the state saying? The state's saying that we can hire these people to drive around, possibly kill you if you don't listen to the Gestapo, or we can hire peace officers by the state. Now, I do agree that you can have volunteer policemen that can have guns. That I agree with. But they'll have to get another job. So they would only be a police officer for volunteer, but they would not be paid by the state. That funding would be removed. And they can be a volunteer police officer and carry their lethal sidearm, but they'd have to get their own job. So they're not going to be able to patrol as much because they're going to have to go and find work, okay? But then they can get their little sidearm and go around and do their volunteer work, but the state doesn't pay them. It starts with the state, it starts with money, it starts with funding. We need to lower mass shootings, vote to make sure that the police officer cannot carry a lethal sidearm, especially the beat officer. I'm okay with having state-sponsored SWAT. SWAT is a special. They usually have a commander that's intelligent, has a college education, and can make wise decisions. That's what I'm trying to say. It's going to start with that beat officer. When we have peace in this country, it'll be when you're pulled over by a police officer, and you look, and he has no sidearm, and you ask that police officer, "Where's your lethal sidearm?" He said, "We're not allowed to carry them anymore." Okay. Now, many officers are going to die because of that. It's true. But they're also going to die. They'll die too with the sidearm as well, because that happens. But, you know, they get hit by vehicles on the side of the highway and things like that too. So it'll be dangerous because every citizen will be allowed to carry a lethal sidearm. Now in Texas, it's open carry. And that goes for, I think, all 50 states. We start with the beat officer. and take away that lethal sidearm, then we start to see that there will be a lower amount of mass shootings. Because what's happening in Texas is bad, but we cannot be hypocrites. We cannot be hypocrites. If we want them to put away their guns, then we have to do the same and listen to Jesus. Actual Florida, I'm sorry, North Carolina. It's first in flight. That's what that looks like. I'm doing a survey on what different license plates. Give them some willingly. I know.